Thank you all for being here tonight. I'm super excited that Coach Kelsey is here on the call with me, and she and I are going to discuss training for coxswains at RSR Elite this evening. Both Kelsey and I have coached the Elite camp for many years, and Kelsey is our dedicated coxswain coach at the camp. We additionally will be bringing on a second coxswain coach this summer, which I'm very excited about. But for this evening, I just ask for your patience a little bit. The rowers version of this was extremely highly subscribed. So as we go through, I'm going to be admitting people to the waiting room, and you may see me pause for a second. But other than that, we're going to get started. So here's a brief overview of what we're going to cover tonight. Most of the stuff that we talk about here is stuff that you can be, there'll be nuggets of information that you can take and start to do at your own home programs. But what we're going to try and go over is what we do at camp. So if any of you are looking for ways to improve while at your home programs, this is, hopefully you'll get some good information on here as well. So the first thing I'm going to go over is what we want our coxswains to be able to do after they're done at RSR Elite. So we have many things that we hope that they're able to learn. First and foremost is building their own competence and confidence so that they can execute practice efficiently and be in charge of the safety of the equipment and the athletes. So that's the first one. Another thing is we want them to come away getting to having an understanding of reading coaches' writings. So I put a little example of what that is here in the upper right-hand corner. Be able to understand what that means and be able to execute that sort of workout by just being able to read what the coach has written. We also want our coxswains to have an understanding of rigging and how it affects rowing and the boat. Continuing on, we want our coxswains to learn how and when to respond and how to keep athletes calm under all sorts of situations. We also want them to learn how and when to communicate with coaches and what coaches do and do not need to know in any given circumstance. Continuing on, we want our coxswains to learn flexibility. So they're going to be put in situations where different rowers and different crews as a group have different likes and dislikes and different energies. And we want our coxswains to learn to adjust and be flexible within the boat so that when they walk into a new crew, they're able to execute in those situations. Just letting more people in. Sorry. We want coxswains to learn what their role is when executing a specific type of practice. So for example, if we're doing 3-minute seat races, for example, we want coxswains to know right off the bat that what they should be doing is setting their cox boxes to record at 3-minute intervals without coaches needing to tell them that. Here's our one of our little brains. We want coxswains to learn the psychology behind pushing oneself to their perceived maximum effort, so that coxswains can be really supportive and good teammates to the athletes who are rowing in the boat and performing on the erg. This is a very big component of RSR Elite. And I would say one of the things that separates us the most from other camps that you could do in the summer is our emphasis on the mental training of all the athletes, rowers, coxswains, and coxswains. So RSR mental skills is what we call that. And that's a huge component of our programming. And a lot of time gets dedicated to it throughout the camp. This is a great photo of Kelsey and the 7 coxswains that were working with her at the 2022 Elite Camp. So that's I love that photo.
I know it's my favorite.
Is it? Awesome.
Oh, yeah.
So an important thing that we also want our coxswains to learn is how to work with other coxswains to execute an effective practice, how to communicate with each other both on and off the water, how to provide feedback which is constructive in a constructive way as well. We want our coxswains to learn how to rebound after an error because errors happen. And at the end of the day, every coxswain is unique, and we want to help them find their own voice while equipping them with the tools that they need to effectively manage that role and be excellent at it. So that is a great list of all the things that we hope that we know that we work on with our coxswains throughout the camp, and what we strive to have them take away from it. So now we're going to go into day in the life. So Kelsey, can you walk us through a day in the life of an RSR Elite coxswain?
Absolutely. So it starts early in the morning. I think last year practice started at like 6. I think we walked down at 6:15, something like that. So you're gonna get up early. You're gonna make sure all the rowers are out of their rooms and like make sure they're like ready to go. When we walk down to practice, we hang back and kind of caboose it, the coxswains and the coxswain coach. We talk about the lineups, the warm-ups, and like what we're doing in practice that day. It is a great time to not only find out the warm-up that I've either sent out late that night or early in the morning, but like get a rundown of exactly what those rates are, confirming it, making sure we're all on the same page going into it. I think that's really important because, like Jackie said, it's really important in that execution phase that we are all on the same page. You don't want to be on the water being like, oh, wait, was it a 1 minute rest or a 2 minute rest, right? Like your coach wants it done already. So it makes that time we have to finalize. We know what we're going to set our Cox boxes at and make sure we're ready. Once we get down to the boathouse, obviously we get all of our equipment, all that fun stuff. We go out, we execute practice. On the water, you normally get a lot of feedback from your coaches right away. If it is maybe some harder feedback or maybe didn't happen on the water, I usually ask the coaches right after, and then we get that feedback. So then as we walk back, same thing, we hang back while the rowers go up, and then we hang back and talk about what happened on the water, what went well, what didn't go well. You have your chance to kind of ask any immediate questions of like, hey, I totally messed this drill up. What was that supposed to be? This is a great time for us to kind of discuss that and talk about how it goes. Once that happens, we get back, we have our breakfast, whatever we're doing. I think that's a really important time, that kind of debrief time, because it's great to communicate with the other coxswains, being like, hey, I totally cut you off on that last thing. I'm so sorry. Right? Like I think coxswains don't always apologize to each other when we mess up. And in building our team culture, that's a really big part of it, is acknowledging your own mess ups and like having that time to debrief with each other. We also do, I think it's like 2 or 3 times weekly, we have coxswain meetings. So we spend some of the cooler afternoons going over kind of bigger picture concepts, talking about motivation, concept calls, all that kind of stuff. One of my favorite parts of the evening at the very end of the day is tea time. I normally did it around 6 or 7 p.m. I brought a little portable kettle, and if you wanted tea, you could have tea. But it was a great time to sit around and kind of ask any questions. It could be something you've been thinking about. It could be kind of posing a question to a group of like, hey, I've been working with this call, but I'm not really sure the best way to make it better. Or just like, hey, today's boat, this lineup did not work. Has anyone had experience with this lineup? I really want to make it go better. Um, we've had all sorts of questions, and it was just a really nice time to connect and kind of find our humanity and our way to like talk about it more as a team and less of as like competitors. And that was like a really important and like really fun bonding time. And that's the end of the day. So you kind of get refreshed. If I know the workout for tomorrow, I'll send that out then. We can always discuss then. But that's like the average day.
Awesome. Yeah. And one thing I loved about tea time is that the coxswains would come up with all these scenarios and ask Kelsey, well, how do I handle this if this happens at the start line or if
Mhm.
this happens mid race? And it was just a great time for them to discuss that as well. So tea time is a lot of fun.
Yeah, we got into some amazing discussions. Though some of the hypotheticals, I was like, if that ever happens, my God, I have so many more questions, but we can talk about it. But yeah.
And then high level day in the life, that Kelsey spoke directly to coxswains, but obviously the coxswains are a part of the greater camp. So I'll just run through that really fast. We typically get up early, as Kelsey mentioned. We are rowing at the University of Alabama. It's very warm at the University of Alabama, so especially in June and July. So our typical morning practice tends to be a little bit longer than an afternoon one would be. Practice is usually finished by around 9:30 in the morning, and we head up to the dorms, which are walkable from the boathouse, for breakfast. Have a nice breakfast as a team, and then the coaches really decide at that point, based on the weather and the heat index, whether or not we're going to be running a indoor or outdoor practice in the afternoon. More often than not, it's an outdoor practice, but it is often shorter because the heat indices can get high. So we decide when the best time for that is, but it's in the afternoon after lunch. But it might be, say, from 2 o'clock to 4:30 or 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock instead of, and other days it may be, 4 o'clock to 6. It just sort of depends on what the weather looks like. After breakfast, the athletes typically have some downtime, and then there are many things that we do in between practices and also after second practice. So the thing I want to impress upon you is that RSR Elite is very busy. There is not a lot of athlete downtime, and typically all athletes, I would say, are in bed by 9 because they're tired. Some of the things that we do are, in addition to what Kelsey mentioned for the Coxswains, we have our RSR mental skills, which is attended by everyone, including all the coaches. That is typically every other day for about an hour. We have erg office hours, which Coxswains attend as well. And that's where we typically group athletes who need to work on the same technical challenge that they're working to overcome. We group them together, and so that we can work sort of more one-on-one with that particular group of athlete. We do a lot of video review. Coxswains are involved in that. We have mentor meetings. So every athlete on our team and every coxswain on our team is assigned a mentor who meets with them about once a week to just do an individual check-in. Kelsey is the mentor for all the coxswains. But this year we'll be bringing on a second coxswain coach, as I mentioned earlier. What else do we do, Kelsey? Yoga and stretching. We do a lot. We do sessions of that. We bring in a strength trainer and nutritionist in the first part of camp. So we have that. We have a brave training, which is so awesome. You can look it up if you're interested. It's through Brave Enterprises. What did I miss? I feel like there's some other thing.
I feel like there's so many things that happen in the day to day that I just don't remember. I feel like looking
Yeah,
back.
that's fair.
There's also a lot of like downtime that is like meant to be time to rest. Not a lot, but when there is downtime, it is like time to rest. It is not time to be running around outside in 1,000 degrees, right? It's like, which is actually really nice. Like there's like unofficial dedicated nap time from I think like 10:30 to about 11.
Yeah.
I think almost everyone takes a nap, us included.
So So yeah, I mean, at high level though, it's a very busy program, and so we do try to provide. We know that athletes have recruiting calls, and so we do try to give them time in the evening where we can say, this is a good time to schedule that. But the big thing I want to impress upon everyone with this camp is that it's extremely busy, and you will be tired, and you'll take pretty much all of your downtime to rest.
Yeah.
All right, great. So we do a lot of specialized training for our coxswains. I talked earlier about what we hope the outcomes are, what we strive to have the outcomes be. And Kelsey, can you walk us through some of the things we do at RSR Elite for our
Yeah.
coxswains?
So you have a dedicated coach whose like whole job is to make you better, which is not common at a lot of camps and are like there's a lot of specialized attention. Former coxswains can speak to that. There's a lot of times we'll go through, individual recordings with a group or individually. We can talk about pros and cons, what we want to change, what we think we did well. And like that is a pretty big part of what I do, especially is trying to make you better. That's like kind of my whole goal there. There's a dedicated Coxing manual that is like specifically for you guys and you guys only. It is written by most of the coaches. I think everyone's kind of put a hand in there. A lot of it is like from me and Holly specifically about things one we want from you, we expect from you, as well as like just like overall expectations of what any coxswain should do at any point, not just at RSR. That Cox manual, it also is like our not super secret, but our like race day plan that you guys find out like week 1. So you can start building that race plan for race day way at the beginning. Which is, you don't think you need all that time, but believe me, you do to like really finalize what you want to do. The mentor meetings are really awesome times for coxswains. Like I said, we do a lot of that tape review in big groups. We'll listen to tapes that I have. We will also listen to your own tapes, which is going to sound scary. And I promise you it's not. But it does feel it's a very vulnerable moment. And it is a really big time to like step up, be vulnerable, and let your teammates support you. And I think that is something you don't get at a lot of other places. We really make sure it's supportive and like, yes, there's going to be critiques. We all make mistakes. I have recordings that are absolutely trash that if I can find, I will share this year. But like, that's fine, right? It's all about being vulnerable and showing your mistakes and also like learning from them. And we really want to know the backstory of like why you made that call, what's going on in the boat, what was kind of happening. Tea time, that's always my favorite day. That's my favorite time of day. I really love those. It's like such great community building. The hypothetical scenarios, all the conversations, and just like it was really amazing team bonding that like I think that is a huge difference. I think on a lot of other programs, coxswains are seen to compete against each other for that top boat. And while I'm never going to say like you're not going to want that top boat, you're not going to fight for it, our community is a lot more supportive and a lot more about, wow, they got it because they deserved it, and I've been watching them grow and achieve and like getting better every single day. Um, it's a much more supportive environment. I have never seen. I think last year was like the best year yet, but I think every year they're getting closer and more willing to like ask each other for help and support each other. And like every year that team energy from the coxswains specifically, not just like rowers and coxswains, but like the coxswain as a group, they're just becoming so much more kind of dedicated to each other and supporting each other even more. To me, that is huge. Similarly, the post and pre-practice walks, I will tell you everything I know about the workout, exactly what we want from you, exactly our expectations, and it'll be very laid out and clear. It is a great time to ask questions. It's a 7-minute walk max, but you would be surprised how many questions you can ask in that time. It's a lot.
And I don't want to interrupt. Well, I'm going to interrupt you, Kelsey. I
That's
just
fine.
want to add also, Kelsey will go over what boats, what oars, which direction to
Hmm.
launch, and which coach those coxswains are with. So the coxswains really show up at the boathouse feeling equipped to run the practice. And
Hmm.
all of that information gets shared with them before it's shared with the rowers. So the coxswains are really the ones from the get-go who are running the show. Because what we
Hmm.
don't do is send out lineups the night before. We have them, right? But we don't want the rowers or the coxswains sort of thinking about the lineups all night. And so that's something that we share with the coxswains in the morning, and then the coxswains get to distribute that information on to the rowers.
Yeah, no, Jackie's absolutely right. That part is really special. It also, our big goal, one of them is like making the coxswains take on a bigger leadership role. And by giving them that information, it is part of that, right? They are showing that they can do that and can be responsible and be kind of the leaders we know they can be, that we are teaching them to be, that they already are by being a coxswain. That is a really big point. Thank you, Jackie.
Yeah.
We do a coxswain survey with the rowers. So basically coxswain eval. It's pretty intensive. It's been, I would say, not perfected, but really like what's the word?
Fine tune.
Refined. Yes, fine-tuned, refined over the years. So we get really great data from the rowers, and we're able to synthesize it and bring it to the coxswains. And we have one-on-one meetings where I sit down, I go over every single piece of data with you, tell you the trends that we're seeing, the biggest areas to focus in, and also the things you're doing amazing in that the rowers are really noticing. Um, I think the in-depth survey review is big. I will send you out the summarized version before we go over it. That way you have a chance to review and like look and come in with your feelings. No one's going to spring it on you, right? And it's not going to be public. It is for you and us only. It is only for coaches and coxswains. Um, and you will only see no one else will see your scores or whatever your eval is. I think that survey data has actually made the biggest difference in our coxswains. Like seeing them come in week one, getting that week one data, and then our week three data is usually amazingly different in the best way. Like we only ever see positive trends, which I think is great. We do big whole team collaboration on the race plan. We have our RSR skeleton race plan, and then we come together. Again, this is also one of my, there's so many things I love, but this is one of the big ones. We come together to decide each year kind of the seasonal RSR move. That is the big move that we do. And we get to kind of work on it together and workshop exactly what those call is going to be. So every team and everyone feels very united in that call. Last year, it was awesome. It was super fun to do. I'm not going to give the call away here. But it still gives me chills when I think about it, just like the way it was called and the way we did it. And that's a really great way for everyone, again, to like come together and collaborate on what's going to be a huge team event and like big moment. I think that's a lot of the specialized training. We do the Coxing reviews, we do the big group stuff, pre and post survey data. Am I missing anything, Jackie, that I've like blanked
No,
out on?
I would add that the coaches also fill out that survey that
Yes.
Kelsey was talking about, the 1 and 3 week Coxon survey.
Mhm.
So that data is also in there. But yes,
Yeah. So you
I
get
think
data every day from coaches, but then again, like you'll have kind of a big overall, here's how the coaches are like seeing you from their standpoint.
yeah,
Yeah.
awesome. Selection, Coxon selection.
Oh
So
boy.
Kelsey, can you talk briefly and let's be clear that this list is not exhaustive, but can you talk briefly about how we do Coxon selection at the elite camp?
Absolutely. So again, this is a stressful moment for anybody to know what boat they're going to be in. Those week one and week three surveys are huge. However, if you bomb week one, I don't know, you're nervous, life goes terribly, it does not mean life is over and you're never going to get picked for anything again at camp. Okay. We do these surveys week one and week three to see improvement. That is our biggest goal, is like see you get better. We don't want to see anyone, like jump off the diving board and just like flail week three. We also look at how you're doing in practice, right? Are you getting better at keeping boats together? Can you do the workout? Can you run the workout effectively? Yeah, kind of all of that stuff plays into it. As well as how much you are trying to learn. Are you asking questions? Are you actually making improvements? We'd rather you make a mistake and then be like, hey, I noticed I made a mistake. What exactly is the right thing to do in that situation? That is a huge part of it for us. We do listen to rowers as well, but we also put who we think as coaches will be the best in that spot. It is not a popularity contest. The rowers don't get final say at any point. The coaches do. So it's less about making them love you that I've seen at other camps and I've experienced myself. It's more about how well you are doing and how well you're improving kind of over time.
Yeah, and how you're handling stressful situations.
Mm-hmm.
We talked a little bit at the beginning about how one of our goals is that the coxswains find confidence through competence and are able to help keep the athletes calm and if execute effectively.
Yeah.
Um,
Especially when things go wrong.
yeah,
What are you going to do?
yeah, got to solve for that. Um, I would add sometimes we do switch coxswains around, just like we would rowers in pieces too.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously a demonstrated desire to learn and improve is pretty important. All right, moving on. So Kelsey, you you grew up with rowing. I mean, your mom is even a rowing coach. So
Yeah,
you've been around
she is.
this sport since basically you were born, which is so awesome. And I'm a little bit jealous because that's amazing.
No.
Um, you know, we already covered a lot of what makes RSR a high quality product when parents and athletes are thinking about whether or not they want to come to our camp. But given your longtime experience in the sport, what do you think makes RSR so special?
I think the biggest thing is the team culture that we really focus on building, as well as the mental skills. We focus on building everyone as a whole person, right? There's not like you're the best coxswains who are only going to help you and make you better. It's building you better as a person. How do you handle stress? How are you going to handle the pressure on race day? You know, we give you all these kind of mental skill tools to do that. Which is a coxswain, I feel like it is geared more towards rowers, but you would not believe how adaptable it is to being life as a coxswain. Um, I also think, like I said, like that big community of like team building. I have never seen that on another team, and I've been on a lot of them. Um, Growing up in the sport, like you see a team, you think, oh, it's so great. But I've never had a team that got so devoted, so like so much love in that team in 4 weeks, where it's like you leave and you feel like you've been there. Like even with the coaches, I every time I leave, I feel like it's like been 6 months and I've lived with these people for like my whole life. Um, as well as that sense of coxswain community. Like I said earlier, like a lot of teams will kind of pit coxswains against each other to try and be the best. And I think we build a phenomenal sense of coxswain community and coxswain support that I have never seen, and actually actively seen the opposite plenty of other places. That is something I cannot stress enough as being so important. That level of support and trust to be able to go to your friend and be like, hey, today we were at practice together, you know, going next to each other, and I, for the life of me, could not stay next to you. What is your trick for staying on course so we can have the best practice we can tomorrow? That is a huge thing for people to be able to do, and it's amazing. You're also going to be with, what is it, 8 other coxswains who are going to be incredibly motivated and really want to do their absolute best. And that is going to be like the best way for you to get one, honest feedback from them, because it doesn't help them to lie, and from us. And it's the best way to like kind of like that fire of like, I'm going to really do my best because everyone else here is also on their game, and we're all going to try and like support each other to really be the best we can be.